Hello and welcome to Just in Time Tips. I'm Anton, your host. This is episode number 106. Like many of our episodes, Hayden and I have scrambled at the last minute to really come up with something we can squeeze into 5 minutes. I'm not convinced, Hayden, that we're going to make 5 minutes today.
Well, as ever, we'll give it our best.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I have found that it's harder to do a 5-minute tip often than 30 minutes, because the 30 minutes you can ramble. Yeah, 5 minutes. Yeah. So I have a quick off-topic tip as well to present, but let's get in with just 5 minutes and see what we can do.
Let's do it. Okay. So today's tip is 4 features of SQLcl. Off the bat, I'll say that SQLcl is a product in active development. If you haven't upgraded your version of SQLcl on your computer recently, you should do so. It is...
Sorry, Hayden, that was my bad.
No worries. You should upgrade SQLcl regularly because the features are always changing. The best help for SQLcl is actually within SQLcl. So once you've launched it, you can just type in help and you'll get a list of features exposing just how rich the library is. And let me kick off this time.
That might be the biggest tip right there, because I have learned that from you, that just go to the help right within the tool.
Yes. So the help is very good. It is actually better than a lot of the documentation you can find elsewhere. So let's start with one of my favorite features, which is formatting. So let's first find out about formatting. So help set SQL format. And you can see that there are a bunch of formatting options. There's insert, there's loader, there's JSON, there's HTML, there's something called highlights. Let's take a look at some of them. So the syntax is set SQL format insert. So ordinarily when you query something, you get the ANSI console output. But now that I've set it to insert, it's select star from departments. And it outputs the rows of the table as insert statements.
Makes it easy to move data around. Yeah.
What's a formatting that you would find useful, Anton?
I'm often looking to just generate some quick JSON example data. So JSON.
Set SQL format, JSON formatted. So there are 2 JSON ones. I like the JSON formatted. So now if I run the same query again, now it's outputting in terms of JSON. Last but not least, as I pointed out before, there's this highlighting thing, which I think is kind of fun. If I load a script, so set SQL format ANSI console, which is the default, and then pass in a config file in which I have, and I'll show that on my screen shortly. Now when I query departments, I get some handy formatting. So
yeah, and you only have 3 minutes left. I think people can look at that file. Everybody, if you have SQLcl, you already have that file on your machine. So
yeah. So but an example of why it might be useful is like you can choose to highlight something like to do. So have significant things jump out at you as maybe you wish it, but it's mostly just like a fun feature. Next up on the list of SQLcl features, let's discuss aliasing. So I think aliasing is pretty cool. So help alias. It gives you some examples of aliasing that you might be able to do. If I want a list of existing aliases, so when you SQLcl comes with some defaults, there's this one, tables, which is which I've seen used in demos. If I want to find out what that is, I can do alias list tables. And so everyone should have this if they have SQLcl. And I can tell that it just queries tables from user tables. And so if I were to type those tables, it queries the tables in my database. If I want to set up my own alias,
Hayden, with just a minute and a half left, can we jump right to the creating an alias for attaching?
That's a great point. So this help is easy to follow. Let's jump to more advanced example. Sometimes what you want to alias is more complicated than can easily be communicated in just a few lines of typing into the buffer here. I have an alias.xml which captures. Let's use this one, which captures a series of rather complex commands which take inputs, and so I can load this into alias load alias dot xml, and if it's successful, I'll give you the output aliases loaded. And so let's take a look at one of them, alias lists, attach session. So this takes as inputs these parameters. I have an active Apex session somewhere. So I've got this active Apex session, application 100, page 1, and this is the session. So if I were to invoke my shortcut, get application 100, page 1, and then the session ID, I'm now in, so I can select from.
And there's our minute, 5 minutes. I'm going to keep going. I don't.
Yeah, so I've proven that I'm able to select from my active Apex session.
Right, and so we'll publish this session, this XML, so that I use this. This is something that I attach to sessions all the time through SQLcl, so that I can interact with the session through a command line. So I love these SQLcl things because I've been using SQLcl more and more all the time. I think it is the direction of and not SQL Plus anymore. So
that's right, and it's so much more lightweight than SQL Developer.
Oh, that's interesting. That's pretty cool. So you could. It looks like
yes,
there's a script that you just type SQL.
I think I have that handy somewhere.
Oh, interesting. And that's like a bash script or something like that, a command line script.
Well, I assume Rich may be referring to this. So you can type in this curl command, which has as its parameter SQLcl latest.
Oh, okay.
And that will automatically download the latest. And it's very fast. So.
Oh, interesting. So, well, Neil says the new SQL Developer UI is much easier. Yes, I think at some point there's going to be some sort of big SQL Developer something. I don't know, but behind the scenes, SQL developers using a lot of the same underpinnings as SQLcl. So, yeah, I think there's a challenge here between those two things.
Absolutely. And I use both. So I use SQL Developer for some things and SQLcl for others. Most notably, people may remember that I like to compile through VS Code. VS Code. So essentially, I program VS Code to invoke SQLcl.
Yes, I've done the same myself now. So yeah, and that's a tricky thing. I'm a SQL developer fan, but but VS Code seems to be the wave of the future. My guess is there may be some move in that direction. I don't really know for sure. So do you know if any of these are available in SQL Developer or the new web version?
I think so. When you query in SQL Developer and you right-click on the output, you can export, and you get a lot of export options. I don't know what technology that uses behind the scenes, but it could be similar.
And the web version is definitely using SQLcl in the background. I would guess that there's many of these would work in the web version as well, though I haven't tried them. Hey, we had a couple other things that I think are worth at least mentioning, even though we're well over our 5 minutes for this particular tip. One of which is just the status line at the bottom of your.
Yeah, but people may have noticed that I had a status bar that isn't on by default when you launch SQLcl. but is good, is nice to configure. So if I were to reconnect, and then I do set status bar on, you can, and then show what the status bar options are. Yeah, so you've got this list of things to display at the bottom of your screen here that may be handy to you as you type. So timing is one that can be pretty handy. So every time you run a query, it'll give you the amount of time it took to execute. You can see the Git branch from which you're on, the current working directory. Yeah, so
I love that Git branch. The Git branch that you're on, I think, is amazing. That's very cool. So, let's see. There's a couple other things that I just administrative type stuff for this episode. I did finally. I said I was going to do it last weekend, but I did publish a blog post with the package for the Google sitemap that we did a week or in a previous tip recently. I got a new blog post out on that. That's on apexdebug.com. So if you want to have a sitemap that interacts with Google, that information is all there now on apexdebug.com. And I have an off-topic tip.
Awesome.
So this is legit. This is something that I just did the other day. I'm pretty proficient at SQL, but like everyone, my brain cramps sometimes, and I know I used to be able to write this simple thing, but I can't, or sometimes a complex thing. And I have started keeping a ChatGPT window open, and I just start out. I'm using an Oracle database, and I just have this thing open all the time, literally all the time when I'm coding. And then I ask it questions. Can you write a hierarchical query with the following table? And this legit, I had this exact question, and I'm like, I can't remember the syntax for when do I, what comes first, the prior, and where's the start by, and it wrote this, right? But and this is the thing, is I actually needed the whole path. And so I said, is it possible to get the hierarchy path? And it wrote it with the sysconnect by path. So exactly what I needed. My off topic is exactly this. I just keep this window open all the time now, and I just ask it questions. I start with, I'm using an Oracle database, and then go from there.
Wow. And it seems like the results are it's more efficient than, say, Googling the same question.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah, it was. And I'm no guarantees, but so here's a great question from Mohammed. Hayden, this was supposed to be snuck in.
There's one thing that also we forgot to mention, which is I wanted to advertise that Liquibase comes with SQLcl, but I just wanted to mention it because Liquibase deserves its own 5-minute tip.
5 minutes, yeah. Liquibase in 5 minutes. That is on our agenda. So yes.
But I guess I'm not entirely sure what the Git integration component.
Well, I think we can talk about that when we get there, because ultimately, if you're going to be trying to promote this code, you need to have a way to store what it is you've done for the next environment.
Yes, so I'll interpret Git integration as just like, how do you store it in scripts?
Yeah, I think so, right? And great input from Rich.
That's excellent.
Yeah, perfect. Love it. All right. And I don't know what the $20 is well spent on, but plumb and head out.
The ChatGPT thing is free, right?
It's free for me. I don't know if somebody else paying. I don't know if other people are paying $20, but I don't recall paying $20 for it.
Oh, I forgot to mention we're charging for viewership.
Oh, excellent. So we're gonna make $40 today on this episode at $20 a piece. We might, 1 or 2 episodes, we might actually get to the triple digits.
Nice.
this was a jam-packed 5 minutes. It turned into 15, but that's got, we mixed in a few other things here.
Yeah, it's I think off the top, I teased 4 different tips. I got through like 2 of them in 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah, I think 5 minutes is tough, like I said, from the beginning. All right. Well, hey, great seeing you again, Hayden, and you wasted a perfectly good 15 minutes with us.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye-bye.